So, Senator, are you going to get down to Olympia very much during the session? How are they going to work the presence and the virtual?
It's going to be a virtual, and there'll be a skeleton number of folks on the floor of the Senate, and still trying to figure out who that is and what that looks like. But very much probably, less than 50%, probably 30% or less on the floor, and most will either be at home or up in their office by themselves. All staff are going to be working remotely, so the actual legislative buildings will be closed. So a very different scenario. And we thought we could share a little bit about that at the end too, about what session might look like as far as the actual interactions and how that's going to happen as opposed to being in person. So
very good.
Yeah.
Representative Johnson, welcome.
Thank you so much. How's it going?
Good to see you this morning. Okay, so we're at 8:01, but we should probably wait a minute or two for Representative-elect Taylor. What's that? Okay, we're getting Representative-elect Taylor the Zoom link. There was a technical issue. Before we get started, Senator and Representative, did you both receive a copy of our legislative agenda electronically?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, I did.
Okay, very good. Okay, good. Good to hear. Okay, I think
that looks good, Mr. Mayor. The red and gold is a nice look.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Felt like being Christmassy. Okay, what's the update? Could somebody call her?
I texted, and she did not have the panelist Zoom link, and I just sent it to her. So she's, and again, I think emails are kind of weird because they may not be going all the way through. And I'm not sure what email it was sent to, but anyway, I did just text her the link that was sent to me. So I don't know if she needs a separate one or not.
She does need a separate unique link to her. I did send it to an info at elect Jamila Taylor, I believe.
Okay.
.com.
I'll text her and let her know.
Let's make sure we've got the right email address.
Mayor Farrell?
Yes.
I have a skateboard meeting at 9, so if it looks like we're going really, really long, I may leave about 9:10 or so I can join that, because we're working on our legislative program there too.
Oh, thank you. I think we should be, I think we're going to be pretty good on time today. We'll move it along pretty well. Oh, Representative-elect Taylor, there you are. How are you?
Awesome. Good.
Yay.
It looks like she's on my link, so we are not twins. So I'm glad you're on here, and there we go. So now we have all of us here. Thanks, Mayor Farrell.
You're welcome. Thank you. Representative-elect Taylor, can you hear me?
I can. I'm glad to be here this morning.
All right, Houston, we have launch. All right, well, let's call this thing to order. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
To the republic
for which it
which it
stands,
stands,
one nation, under
one
God,
nation,
Under God,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Okay, welcome everybody. All right, so we've got a full agenda, and we were just talking about timing, and we're hoping we can get this done, right about an hour. And I know everybody's time is very valuable. So let's go ahead. I won't be long under the introduction, other than to say we are so thankful for your partnership. We're excited about. I know that all the council, my policy partners on the council are excited about this. We've had such great relationships with our legislative delegation. We've got so much accomplished, whether it's the money for our Performing Arts and Events Center, or for the steps, our town center steps, or just the tremendous, the tens of millions of dollars that we received over the years for our infrastructure improvements, some of which we'll likely talk about today. We're very fortunate. We're very, very excited about the appearance of our representative-elect, Representative Taylor, and Representative Johnson, our former colleague and still colleague, and in policy and in friendship. And Senator, thank you so much. And so we, by way of introduction, one of our council members couldn't be here, but we do have our Council President Honda, Council Member Asefa Dawson, Council Member Baruso, Council Member Leandra Kraft, Councilmember Kochmar, and Councilmember Moore, and again, Councilmember Tran was unable to make it today. So we do also have on the call our Federal Way management team. They are department directors and managers, and they work hard for our community every day. Aaron Flygar, our city lobbyist, is on the call as well. I'd like to thank our community partners for attending: the Federal Way School District, Lake Haven, South King Fire and Rescue, Greater Federal Way Chamber of Commerce. I saw Becca post a comment here a few moments ago. And just by brief introduction, I'm going to turn it over here to our legislative delegation in a moment. When we get into it, we'll have each one of the council members, or in tandem, likely per issue, address issues and have an opportunity to talk about issues of their concern. But obviously this has been a unique year with challenges and opportunities. I want to thank our legislators for their continued leadership and partnership and friendship. Our city benefited from many initiatives from the last legislative session, many that we've spoken about today and previously. But I want to particularly note, especially in these times, that you'll probably pay particular note as to one of the items on our agenda, which is entitled E Pluribus Unum, which is, as you all know, the national motto of our nation, which is really woven into the DNA of this country, which is out of many we are one. It's interesting. There's all, people think that this talk of diversity and inclusion is a new conversation, but it is as steady and a persistent force in this nation from the very beginning, and it's an ethos of our nation. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about is how are we going to look for ways to help bring us together and highlight the diversity and inclusion and equity that every one of us expects and rightly deserves. So as we work together, let us take this to heart as we work for our residents and our neighbors. And thank you all so much for attending today. It was a little bit earlier than we in this day of COVID and video appearance that we're probably used to, but it's good to get a fresh start on the day. With that, I'll turn it over to first Senator Wilson.
Thanks so much. And I'm going to kind of start off as the senior member of this delegation, which is a bit hard to believe, given that I still feel like I'm a toddler, and maybe if you were thinking of school, kind of a junior. But really pleased to be here and so excited to have two partners in Rep. Johnson and Rep-elect Taylor to move the work forward for the 30th Legislative District, as well as for communities and families across the state of Washington. So what we thought we'd do is just introduce ourselves with our committee assignments and let you know kind of where our focus areas will be. Then give you just the priorities. The Senate and the House, we have some the same, but oftentimes we approach things a little differently. And then just details about what we know about the session and individual focus, and then questions from y'all would be awesome. So I'm going to start off just by saying that I'm sitting in much the same committees as I sat last session, and that would be Vice Chair of Early Learning K-12 with a focus on early learning, which has clearly been an issue throughout COVID. I sit on Human Services, Reentry and Rehabilitation, which is really looking at our human services supports as well as our JA to 25 and Department of Corrections. So all of the things that encompass that whole scenario. I sit on transportation, which is a hugely important issue for our South King County area. And newly this session am sitting in rules, which is a wonderful place to be as we think about moving bills forward and putting them on the floor in a short session. Not a short session, but a session that may feel short just because of the amount of time it'll take to move things through. And then I'll continue to sit in my role as Deputy Whip in the Democratic Caucus. And I'm going to pass it off to Rep. Johnson.
Thank you so much, Senator Wilson. So happy to be here this morning and talk with you all about our city and the issues coming. I wanted to just add to what Senator Wilson said. This is going to be an unprecedented session, probably with a record low of bills just because of the virtual reality we're in. We've been told we can have no more than 7 bills per legislator. So it's a different time, but I think we're going to be able to prioritize what's most important and go deeper with our bills this year. I wanted to just talk a little bit about remote testimony as well. We're going to be having remote testimony and advocacy for bills. So even though this is like a challenging time, we're going to have opportunity to have community that's never participated in the political process before be able to testify on bills. So I guess that's a plus. In terms of committee, I'll be serving as Vice Chair of Public Safety, which considers issues obviously relating to the criminal legal system, local community policing, crisis response, crime prevention, and sentencing. I'll also have the opportunity to serve on appropriations, which considers operating budget considerations and related legislation, fiscal impacts, community, and obviously what's going on with our budget this year. It's going to be 5 to 6 hours a day, probably dealing with how we either cut services or expand or preserve services across our state. So it's going to be interesting. Finally, I'll be serving on economic and community development, which deals with investment, economic resiliency, small business for our communities, financing, trade, tourism, and parks and rec. So happy to serve on these committees this year. And I'll hand it over to Representative-elect Jamila Taylor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and begin to serve our community in this new way. This is an interesting transition from serving on the City of Federal Ways Human Services Commission and understanding some of the most important and critical challenges our community has faced over the years. And then, of course, as our city responded to COVID and being able to help those who have been challenged. I am happy to serve on the Transportation Committee. I'm also happy to serve on the Community and Economic Committee, Economic Development Committee with Rep. Johnson. And I will be serving as Vice Chair of the Housing, Human Services, and Veterans Committee. One of the interesting things is that we're going to be addressing landlord-tenant law. And as a person who has practiced in the public interest, working and addressing housing issues from multiple perspectives, perspectives. I think this is something that can really help our residents in the 30th district, where we have 49% of our residents are renters, but also folks who have stepped up to support our tenants with services, and also stepped up to support our tenants with supportive rental assistance. So I'm excited to be here and work towards the new possibilities for many folks in our community. Going back to the old normal or to a new normal that feels just like the old normal is not an option. And so I'm glad to partner with the City of Federal Way and other cities within the 30th district.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you. I look forward to this. Let's jump in right now with our first subject, COVID-19 humanitarian. Excuse me. COVID-19 humanitarian relief. First, with co-presenters or questioners, council members Lydia Sefa-Dawson and Leandra Kraft.
Good morning, Senator Wilson, Representative Johnson, and Representative-elect Taylor. Councilmember Sefa-Dawson and I have the pleasure of starting off today with our #1 legislative priority, and that's humanitarian relief. So I first just wanted to say, from the get-go, Federal Way has been partnering with the county, the state, and the federal government to help with job security and social services for those who need it most during COVID-19. It is a really weird time, as everybody has mentioned on the call. It's a really difficult time for many people, and something that our city has really been proud of doing since the start of the pandemic is that we have advocated with our partners, our legislative partners, for the eviction moratorium and the protection of renters from late fees and other changes due to late payment of rent during the state's moratorium on residential evictions. As our city started to receive CARES Act fund and community development block grant funds, they have become available, and we have also supported our childcare businesses throughout the city by providing rent support through a partnership with El Centro de la Raza. We are really grateful for the state's role, and we will continue to advocate with our legislative partners to enhance and continue food security, rent support, transitional housing, and the extension of the eviction moratorium as we pivot to the new post-COVID-19 economy. Something that Council Member Sefa-Dawson had brought up at one of our prior council member meetings is that something that we hope as the Federal Way City Council to continue to expand on and come up with ideas for is when this eviction moratorium ends, as we know will eventually end, what can we as legislative partners do to assist our residents in the City of Federal Way and in our community? And so I'm going to pass off the rest of the notes for this particular section to Councilmember Sefa-Dawson. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Kraft. And I just want to say thank you to all our state reps. Congratulations on your appointment to these particular committees. They're all important, and I'm really excited for you guys. To add a little bit to what Councilmember Kraft said is that the city, the county, and state, and the federal government have partnered to do all we can to help all our lost people who have lost their jobs and those who rely on social services to continue to bridge that self-sufficiency. So we're proud of what the city has done. We are thankful for what the state has offered us. But, from the, and then initially also through human services and through COVID-19 funding, the city has stepped forward with food relief for the senior center and multi-service center, as well as for day center clients. We do advocate for the eviction moratorium and the protection of renters from late fees and other charges due to late payment of rent during the state's moratorium on residential eviction. And I can't emphasize more what Councilmember Leandra Kraft just said about our concern regarding the once the moratorium is lifted, then what really happens to people. And this is a regional issue, and we do appreciate that this is going to be a regional approach. But the biggest concern being if people do get evicted, it's going to exacerbate the homelessness issue that we're already trying to address and understand. So we do want to advocate for a comprehensive plan and support, and it would definitely benefit the most, including people who live in our city. And so thank you. And if there's any other council member who wants to add to this comment, I believe we are done with our presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Delegation, legislative delegates, do you have senator and representatives, any comments on that section, or anything to add on that?
Well, I think what we didn't get to share, and we were hoping to, was just our big buckets of legislative priorities. So clearly this fits into one of that, but I don't know if that would be helpful. We kind of told you where we sit on committees, but what we didn't share with you was what the priorities for the House and the Senate are, which might help also see where those fit into your priorities, because we will have a limited session time. So if we could take a step back and maybe do that very quickly. I know for the House there's 4, and for the Senate there's 7 different areas, which might be helpful. Just saying that there's an overall equity is a foundational part of all of the policy priorities. And so as we look at demographics and we look at impacts even before COVID and now exacerbated by COVID, that is the overarching lens that we'll be looking at. And the areas for the Senate, and it's the systems that we think about, are police accountability, criminal justice reform, climate action and resiliency, a just economy, COVID-19 recovery, which fits into a bit about the conversation we were just having, healthy families and healthy communities, childcare and early learning and school age care, and education and opportunity, and all really focused on COVID recovery and economic recovery, because that's, as we have to look forward, that is the biggest thing that's in front of us.
I can hand it over to my seatmate to talk about the House priorities.
Thank you. The House priorities, we have 4 buckets. The most important, or to start with, is equity. And we have to have equity throughout all of our decision making, and making sure that we're not leaving anyone behind as we're trying to move forward in our economic recovery. Number 2 is COVID response. So everything, as you can imagine, public health response, the needs that are addressing the challenges that families are facing because of the COVID pandemic, we're prioritizing. Third, the economic recovery is critical as we emerge out of this unprecedented challenge. And then lastly, climate justice, very similar to the 7 buckets that are on the Senate side, but condensed into 4 priorities. And as you can tell, as you go through your legislative priorities, there are many of your priorities that fit into the bucket, and how we can usher into resources that either preserve services or expand or create services that must respond to the economic recovery or COVID.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, I think that helps sort of set the stage a bit as well and provide context. With that, let's turn it over to Council President Honda, who's going to be talking about COVID-19 business support.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today, everyone. I appreciate you getting up and coming to meet us on Zoom. So this, the city is, our second priority is business support for COVID-19. And you'll see that we state that we want to expansion of statewide business grants due to COVID restrictions for businesses and restaurants, and to support our landlords affected by the eviction moratorium for both residential and business leases. I'm glad that the CEO of the chamber, Becca Martin, is on today, because the city's been working hand in hand with the chamber as when COVID hit. And the city has made full use of the state administered CARES grants to support our small businesses. And when the newest restrictions came out, the city was able to turn around in a matter of hours and provide additional assistance for those restaurants who had opened for in-house dining and had to close again. So I believe we gave 81 grants out at that point, additional grants to our restaurants. We also need to support our landlords affected by the eviction moratorium for both residential and for businesses. And that's really important that we include the business leases in when we talk about the eviction moratorium. That is one of the main concerns of the businesses right now in our city. And we need to make sure that there's a solution so that we don't have businesses or families evicted because they're unable to pay back rent. So I will, I know we're getting short on time already, and this is only the second item. So I'll close with that, but this is very important to us here in Federal Way as well as across the state, I'm sure. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Why don't we go through all the items and then we'll then we'll have a chance to kind of come back and get a discussion from each one of them members about that. Okay, so now we are on to expansion of broadband internet. Council members Kraft and Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, and welcome to Senator Claire Wilson, Representative Johnson, and Representative-elect Jamila Taylor. And again, my congratulations to you, Representative-elect. Obviously, as we've been hearing, the COVID-19 has really affected truly everything. And one of the things that we've been doing is we've been playing as a pivotal partner with the school district and making sure that our children truly have an equitable access to a quality education. And we are proposing $100,000 for a pilot project to be continued for the school district, and obviously work with the state and Department of Commerce efforts for expansions of broadband internet to support businesses, residents, students, and educators. I think we all know this, that there, even to this day, some students don't have access to internet, and so it's really important that we're making sure that everybody has that access and has a quality access to broadband internet. So with that, because of time, I'll keep mine short.
Okay, Councilmember Kraft.
We can move forward. Councilmember Moore covered everything. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. All right, now moving on to veterans. Council President Honda.
Thank you. I guess in the summer of 2018, the Veterans Committee here at the City of Federal Way was appointed by the mayor. This is a committee that would like to form a Veterans Memorial here in the City of Federal Way. It's something the community has wanted, and actually community members worked on this for a number of years before the summer of 2018. We had a recent King County grant for $20,000 from our King County Council member, Von Rockbauer, and we thank him for that. We are looking for additional funding because we know with the work that we've done that this memorial can cost anywhere up to $500,000. We do expect to fundraise in our community, but we would certainly ask for some funding from the state. This is very important. We have veterans here and veterans families who would like to have a place to go where they can sit and remember the sacrifices that were made. So thank you very much.
All right, and thank you, Susan, and thank you for your participation in that. And we're going to be meeting actually later this week, hopefully, to talk about our course of action, and we're going to be reaching back out to the council through the regular process on that. So thank you very much. Okay, crime and safety, Councilmember Baruso.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Senators Wilson and Representative Johnson and Representative-elect Taylor. welcome, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I have the crime and public safety portion, and this is the first portion that we have any money listed in that. So my first one is $350,000 to initiate a body camera pilot program for federal officers. We all know that this is something that everyone is looking forward to trying to do. Would support the initiative, initiate a body camera pilot program for federal officers, of course. This would activate 20 cameras, including equipment, IT, and staffing. Cameras would be deployed in field operation division utilizing patrol officers and select specialty units. Our safe cameras, safe city cameras, looking for $100,000 there. Thank you for our legislative teams, Representative Johnson. Previously, we're working on the federal way. We received $100,000 this year. This will help install 30 cameras for approximately 8 intersections, or 8 intersections, 320th at Hoyt Road, Dash Point Road, Enchanted Parkway, Milton Road, 320th Military Road, 320th and 25th Avenue, 320th and Warehouser, 320th Street and 32nd Avenue, and Starlight Road, Military Road. So the next phase is Safe City Project proposed deployment of cameras at additional intersections, excuse me. The total cost again would be approximately $100,000 plus city contribution. The legislators' continued system of $100,000. This would help the city accomplish a large percentage of this phase. Federal Way would use existing staff to staff resource to manage the project and technical tasks installation. Our next item is also support for maintaining capacity at law enforcement academy. So this continue to advocate for maintaining capacity at state law enforcement academies, just like it says. What we have in here also the pilot project to prevent copper wire theft. This was brought up by Councilmember Moore, my colleague, for our legislative agenda. Would be deployed to protect lights at 8 play fields in Celebration Park. As you know, copper theft is a big thing. What's going on right now continues. Animal park theft in the parks in the past years probably cost us about $50,000 a year. Pilot project would inform future expansion of public works budgets, $32,000 annually for knockdown of lights and copper wire theft. The last 3 years, copper wire theft has averaged $84,000 to $132,000 a year. And our public reform, of course, engage in meaningful discussion, police reform legislation that in this legislative session that we're asking for. And I know that's going to be a big one. And I will end mine there. Any comments from any council members? It's this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll come back to that. Let's right now we're at 8:33. So why don't we cycle through the rest of this and then we'll go back. Education, Councilmember Kraft and Martin. Councilmember Kraft and Moore. Excuse me.
Thank you so much. In terms of our education support, of course, as I said earlier, our relationship with the school district is critically important. And of course, we support the legislative priorities of our school district indeed. And I'm sure you guys have already gotten their legislative agenda. So I think the only thing I will add to it is just ensuring that all students have laptops. I know that that's going to be one of many important things, but making sure that especially families that are big, that every student has a laptop so that they can get that quality access to their education would be something I would add to that note. So I'll pass it off to Councilmember Leandra Kraft. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore. And the last note that I want to mention for this particular section for legislative priorities is support, asking for our partners to support additional funding for the Highline UW University Initiative. As you all know, the Federal Way City Council did enter into a memorandum of understanding in 2017 for the university initiative to create a satellite campus here in Federal Way. We are still, the city is still looking at different sites for this satellite campus, but at this time, we will be asking for support for additional funding. I know that there will be some follow-up information that we can give you all for how many students that this could potentially affect. As you know, having a satellite campus would bring more access to education for the students and our residents here in Federal Way. it could also really help people get out of sort of the slump that we expect our residents to go through post COVID-19. I do think that supporting the university initiative does fit into the legislative priorities that you all mentioned at the start of this call, and we hope for your support in this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, community programs. Council member, members Josefa Dawson and more.
Okay, let me get email, sorry. Here it is. Obviously another area of importance, and I know that Representative Johnson has worked on this, I believe, with Senator Wilson, but we are still going after our quest to see a resource center for youth here in Federal Way. We want to reintroduce the Study and Operations Funding Resource Center for youth in Federal Way, similar to the REACH Center, which I personally have been to, and it's absolutely phenomenal, and would love to see that in Federal Way. This was to be informed by an independent study funded on youth violence prevention. That was to be performed by the Department of Children, Youth, and Family Services. A qualified research group was not found by DCYF. However, a statewide study may have been commissioned. As this is a year where capital funds may be available, perhaps the Resource Center project could pivot to a capital project through operational funding would need to be identified. So with that, I'll pass it off. Also a youth substance abuse program. We want to reintroduce the youth substance abuse program as proposed in the 2020 legislative session. This could be obviously part of the REACH Center program. Additionally, the youth, we want to reintroduce the youth violence prevention with $80,000. So that would be a staff position to oversee youth violence prevention efforts. And with that, I'll hand it off to my colleague, Councilmember Lydia Sefadasan. Thank you.
Thank you. The last point on here is the community stakeholders group, where we are looking at $200,000 per year, $100,000 for each year. Okay, so it's community stakeholders group to coordinate policy and services response to people experiencing homelessness, staffing for 2 years of implementing the program, and creating an ongoing Federal Way stakeholders group. Staff funds are available by a new paid staff member in the Community Development Department, which is in the Community Services Division. It would be charged with coordinating and maximizing services and positive outcomes for people experiencing homelessness using the continuum of care and progress model. And there are multiple benefits for having this community stakeholders group, but staffing that position to implement and do the work with these community groups would be very beneficial. And also the stakeholders group would include various people and various entities, but also it would be one where it would also include people experiencing homelessness or who have had lived experience. And I think that is key to the success of this group. So that would end my report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Let's move into transportation. Council President Honda and Baruso.
Thank you. I think I'll go ahead and get started if that's okay with Councilmember Baruso.
Okay. Yes.
Transportation is, thank you, is absolutely essential that we work as partners, and I'm really glad to hear that I think two of you are on the transportation committees, which is awesome. So we have really great news. We have two projects, excuse me, that scored very high with the state, and I want to highlight those, and then Councilmember Baruso can finish this up. But we have something that we call the 288th Road Diet. We're asking for $3,500,000, and it's to restripe 4 lanes into 3 lanes and make bike lanes and provide a trail connection to Pack Highway from 288th to 308th Street. This scored #1 with the state, so we would really like to work with you to get the funding for that. Our second project is Pack Highway non-motorized project, which scored #3 with the state, which is really awesome. And that's a non-motorized trail that will follow Pack Highway South, and it'll be along 16th Avenue. It's really cool. We've been talking about it for the last 6 weeks or so at council. There's a lot of information there about it, and it'll be an amazing trail that will allow the public to get out and walk in a safe manner so that they're not exposed to cars or traffic and potentially get injured. You'll be able to ride your bike there. It'll just be awesome. So that's scored #3 with the state, and we'd like to work with you to get the funding for that. And that is $5,950,000 that we're asking for that. Thank you.
Okay.
And Greg has, Councilmember Bruce has some more to talk about.
Thank you, Council President Honda. So I'll start off with the first one, 50 million city center access. We all know that, or you know that City Center area Federal Way is designated as regional growth center, but it's also postal growth, but it's limited by our congested corridors and lack of multimodal options. Currently, South 320 is able to handle the number of vehicles using, as you probably well know, going through there during peak hour, and affects emergency response time and transit reliability. Vehicles regularly back up into I-5 again during peak hours, and that's a big problem for us. There's inadequate pedestrian and bike access in our city center. Congestion also hinders economic vitality, including movement of goods and services for development opportunities. So we want to improve the safety experience of people arriving through the city center, through the modifications, interchanges South 320th, and I recommend including an overpass at South 324th Street and associated ramp extensions. Again, multimodal improvements proposed include HOV lanes on South 320th, a shared use path connections along South 324th Street extension to BPA Trail. Also planned a street that crosses I-5 will create a connection to existing and planned transit hubs and trails networks, including the BPA Trail. Local street connections, future link rail station, expanded transit network, including the extended HOV lanes on South 320th, support bus rapid transit, and to include improvements for improved traffic flow in South 320th and ease access to the city center from I-5. The second one, 336, our $5 million one, downtown 314 circulation course, pedestrian bicycle circulation traffic capacity again downtown City Federal Way. Our third one for 20 million, South 356 widening project. Course C conducted a corridor study in 2018. Included the roadway needs to be widened by 4 to 5 lanes to accommodate future demand and relieve congestion in that corridor. If you ever traveled that, you can see that and you know. The project will include new bicycle lanes again, pedestrian crossing, landscape medians, stormwater facility, and intersection improvements. Washout plans a new southbound off-ramp from I-5 to South 356th Street, including the addition of new roundabouts. The addition 3 roundabouts will help to improve intersection operations, slow vehicle speeds, increase safety, provide improved pedestrian crossings. The addition of a new transit light rail stationed in the area. I know the final location and alignment will be determined, but it will bring increased pedestrian, bicycle, and multimodal demand to the area. Improving the corridor will relieve the existing bottleneck by providing 2 travel lanes in each direction, plus complete street amenities such as sidewalks and bike lanes. Some of the current issues on 356 between Highway 99 and First Avenues is this important east-west arterial in the southern part of the city. If you go up and down there, you know that certain times of the day it gets pretty crowded. The roadway segment currently lacks safe amenities for pedestrians and bicycles, and a 2-lane stretch of road is flanked by I-5 road segments on either side, and it creates a bottleneck, once again, flow of traffic resulting in frequent delays and congestion. We want to improve safety and experience again for pedestrians and bicyclists, and provide additional roadway capacity expected to serve the new I-5 interchange off-ramp and South Transit Light Rail Station. And the corridor needs to be widened to 4 lanes. The improvements will include complete street amenities such as sidewalks again, bike lanes, also new fish passable crossing Eyeballs Creek, and washouts plans to add a new southbound off-ramp from I-5 to South 356th Street, including additions to new roundabouts. The last one's for $20 million, 336, 340th Street project. Again, with the addition of sound transit light rail station area, it will bring increased pedestrian, bicycle, and multimodal demands. Again, widening the corridor, again, will allow us to 4 to 5 lane cross section, including bicycle lanes, again, turn lanes provide pedestrian crossings. Current issues is South 336 and Southwest 340th Street in the city of Federal Way's east-west corridor leading to the city limits within the city of Tacoma on the west side, I-5 and South State Routes 99 on the east. The current road is primarily a 3-lane arterial, 1 lane each direction, and a 2-way left lane through the predominantly residential area. Again, where there are sidewalks on both sides, there are no dedicated bicycle facilities or safe mid-block pedestrian crossings. In addition to current congestion, future demand expected to delay demand's congestion, resulting in long vehicle queues and poor operations at major sections along the corridor. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now let's move to aircraft issues, and that is council members Assefa and Baruso.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Under here, we want to see funding the third phase of the University of Washington study on ultrafine particles that would examine their health impacts. Federal Way and other 5 airport cities, with the support of our legislative delegations, have been on the forefront of ultrafine particle research with the support of the exemplary researchers at the University of Washington. Phase 1 of the study researched the existence of the particles from aircraft flying over us. Part 2 of the research, while funded during the 2020 legislature with the help of our legislative elected, unfortunately was COVID vetoed. The 6 airport cities, including Federal Way, have stepped up to fund this second phase, which will measure the presence of the particles in our schools and businesses. Part 3 of the study will measure the harm of these ultrafine particles that are present in our schools, businesses, and homes. We will help assist in advocating funding for this danger to our residents' health. We are also grateful for the legislation supported by yourselves and Representative Mike Palachiotti to expand the area for sound insulation remediation to include citizens and Federal Way. This is just the first step in making the parties responsible for this mitigation. We're also grateful for the continued work of the legislature inspired commission to identify sites for other airports. Thank you, and I pass this on to Councilmember Baruso.
Thank you, Councilmember Assefa. So our last one, support any local, state, federal initiative to ensure the health and safety of citizens from aircraft noise and emissions. That's what we're asking for. And we are grateful for the continued diligence of the legislature in supporting these in future ways to minimize the health effects on our citizens and residents with not only mitigation, but also support for new and less harmful technologies. And that concludes. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program, Plura Bazoom. Oh, before we go on let's go back a step. The aircraft issues. I want to thank the work of the work that's been done with the air noise committee that I put together several years ago. I'd like to thank Bill Vadino for all his work. We actually have rejoined START at the airport, where with our policy partners or with our city partners in the region. And just recently, I appointed Dave Berger and Chris Hall to be our representatives at START to address these issues. So there are all kinds of issues going on with regard to noise monitoring and really engaging on the issues of quality of life and noise mitigation. So I just want to let people know that those efforts are ongoing. Okay, now with regard to the Plura Bazoom, we're going to be looking for ways during the legislative session to where we can really where we can really pick up a piece of legislation or a cause and look for ways where we can be actively engaged in efforts that will really bring our community and our region together. So that's really what that comes, looking to enhance social equity, social justice, and increase economic opportunities for our BIPOC communities. So that is a part of our legislative agenda, and I just wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to discuss that. Council, any let me ask any other comments about the items that we have already gone through. Let me see if we've got any comments. I've got first Councilmember Kochmar and then Councilmember Asefa Dawson. Councilmember Kochmar, did you have a comment?
Well, yes, I do about the issues we've just talked about. But before I get to that, I just want to mention that we're working with federal lobbyists with Aaron Flygar as well to discuss how to secure money from the federal government for some of the needs that we have. One of those could be President-elect Biden has a new initiative that appears that will be in force, which is called the Great American Outdoors Act. And hopefully we'll be able to obtain to secure funding for our ball fields at Celebration Park to turn them into turf fields so that we can have people playing there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That will increase our revenue, save on our maintenance and operations, save money on our budget, and make that more of a profitable operation. The thing I would say about our legislative priorities here, Mayor, I really would like to know what you consider to be the top 3 priorities. What would be your first, second, and third top priorities? That might help the legislators narrow down what they're asking for through the legislature.
Well, the council passed these in total, and where it's like we take all of the items to make it on the legislative agenda and to get the consideration. I think all of them have their own individual importance. So we'll work with our legislative delegations and look for opportunities. And so, clearly for me, all of them are very important. And so we will work, like I said, and see where the landscape is. Okay, Councilmember Asefa Dawson, and then Council President Honda.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, thank you, our delegation here. So as the governor has talked about centering policies around equity, and we've talked about crime and public safety. Here's one thing I would like to also add, and that is to better serve those who have been formerly incarcerated as they re-enter. And so there are 2 very interesting mechanisms. One is to either partner with or look at what Seattle Clemency Project is doing around financial capability and supporting those, and from giving them financial education all the way to giving them supportive services as they re-enter. Otherwise, if they don't have that kind of service and wraparound service, they could re-offend. And so being able to help them in that manner. And then the second project that I thought was very interesting is being gender responsive, because women who are incarcerated, a lot of them, most of them actually are mothers. And so this impacts the communities whenever a mother is incarcerated. And so supporting them. And so there's a program out here that I heard that the IF project that does work with this. And so maybe finding ways to support these 2 organizations would be something that I would personally like to talk about. If not funding, at least seeing what they're doing and how in the future they could be supported where they are going to be more effective in serving their communities, especially people who have been incarcerated, again, using the equity lens. Thank you so much.
Councilwoman Asefa Dawson, I'll just say that I sat on the institutional ed task force over the interim, and you can look for 2 different bills coming in. One is J8 to 25 reentry planning for youth that are currently in state whether it's a facility or state-run places, and the use of our community organizations as the reentry planning group. The other is a DOC reentry planning for adults in the adult system who have been impacted by issues related to drugs and alcohol, behavioral health kinds of things. Again, as we think about reentering and as we look at COVID and we think about how the world has changed, it is also going to be critically important to make sure that communities wrap their arms around individuals, because the world looks very different than it has when many of these young people and many of the folks that are incarcerated first started serving their time. So, and then the other piece is gender responsive. So you've hit every nail on the head as we think about not only our youth system, but also the adult systems. So institutional education as well as our adult systems is a focus as I think about the broader conversations around public safety. More than I think of the word crime myself, I think about how it is that we create safe communities for all. So really appreciate that input.
Thank you so much.
I understand that we've got Dr. Campbell on the line. Do you see, Thomas, do you see Dr. Campbell?
No, Mayor, I don't see her logged in. Stephanie has been emailing her back and forth to try and get her the link.
I think the other thing we might want to talk about is budget. I'm just going to put it right out there and say that there's a lot of asks. And to be really honest, we're coming into a time where we're either going to need to figure out revenue or we're going to need to figure out revenue because we certainly can't go back in right now and have an austerity budget where we cut the very services all of you have talked about today. And as I did my quick math, it's like over $1.1 million in our own legislative priorities here, and then 95 million in transpo. So as we think about priorities, just know that the focus is going to be on recovery. And this is probably not the year where we're going to be able to bring member projects or those kinds of things. I think about transpo as well. So we will always fight and talk about what's best for our community. But I also want folks to be really realistic in entering the session about what we may come out with, just given our current economic structure and knowing what we know. And I don't know if my colleagues have anything else to say, but I know there's much work happening around conversations around revenue that also are not regressive in nature and that also don't put pressure on our small businesses and those folks, again, that have been hit so hard by COVID. But we've got to think about both of those sides as I look at the priorities, because everything's important, but this year more than any, we're going to be limited in what we're able, I think, to work with unless we have that revenue conversation.
Very good. Thank you very much. Very important consideration. Okay, first, Council Member Asefa Dawson, and then Council President Honda, and then Council Member Kraft, and I think we've got some public comment. Lydia?
Sorry, I did not lower my hand. That's all. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
Thank
Council
you.
President Honda.
Thank you very much. It's been a great conversation. I would just encourage our legislative team to please support public health. Every year they go to the state asking for funding and get just a tiny portion of the funding that they ask. And this is for all the public health departments across the state. But they need funding not just for COVID-19, but for the daily work that is done and needs to continue to be done. And I would just really encourage you to support public health and give them as much funding as possible. And I'd also like to say shop local. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Thanks for being here.
Okay. And then do we have public comment? Thomas?
Mayor, at this point, Dr. Campbell is trying to join the meeting. She is not on the meeting yet that I see. based on the names of the attendees, but we're trying to get her joined in. So I can let you know as soon as she's on.
Okay. Okay. And what about, my understanding was that Becca with the chamber, Rebecca Martin was going to have a comment.
I don't have anyone else signed up, Mayor, for citizen comment. But we can unmute Becca if she wanted to speak. She
Let's
needs to
do that
raise her
real
hand.
quick. Let's do it. Let's just, let's get her on there.
All right, I unmuted
Hello?
Becca Martin, and Dr. Campbell has also joined the meeting as well.
Very good. Actually, Becca, let's can you hold on just for a second? We've got
Yep.
Dr. Campbell.
No problem.
Dr. Campbell, sorry about the communication issue this morning. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, and so I'm not projecting, right? You can just hear my sound.
Yes.
Okay, just
Yes.
checking, because I've
Yes.
never had a Zoom where I've seen so many people where I was not projecting. So my apologies. For some reason, there was a mix-up in the link, and so thank you, Mayor, for closing the loop. I would just highlight some of our priorities right now are certainly around access to devices in remote setting. I want to thank Senator Wilson, Representative Johnson, Representative Taylor, and others, and specifically the mayor, for the work we've done already around closing some of the gap as it relates to Wi-Fi access. But we're going to have to be a one-to-one school district going forward. And I think that's one of our biggest priorities going forward. And I understand, did Bill share the legislative priorities document that we had? Did you get that? As a group? No, he did not. Okay. So the other items on our legislative list would include just continued funding for school districts. Right now, our enrollment is down about 900 students. And so I've talked to Senator Wilson specifically and Representative Johnson most recently about hopefully having a funding mechanism where we don't just let school districts sort of drop off the map in terms of those kinds of cuts. I have colleagues in other states, and what they're doing is sort of doing a hold harmless. And our transportation, our busing system is another area of priority for us. So I want to thank the city for its continued support. Specifically, again, a big shout out on the support around giving us the $100,000 for hotspots. That was a big one for us. And I want to thank you for integrating our priorities in your priorities, because those efforts will make a significant difference. Any questions you have of me?
Dr. Campbell, the first thing I want to say is, first, as a parent who has, as you know, our little Benjamin, he's not so little. He's not so little anymore. He's 13, but I have to tell you that the school district has been a ray of light and a foundation for your weekly updates, the manner in which your school district and all of your teachers, and it's just been phenomenal, the manner in which our school district has responded. And so I just want to say thank you, first of all. So
I appreciate
Yeah.
that feedback, Mayor.
Can I
Thank you.
just say also congratulations to for being a large school board of the year, the large school district school board of the year. And I know it takes the partnership between the superintendent and the board to make things happen, as well as the partnerships across the city. So really proud. And I just want to just make sure that Superintendent Campbell knows I hear her, we hear her. And we are all about the support. So whether it's broadband, whether it's the hold harmless on transportation, whether it's hold harmless on enrollment, whether it's special ed funding, those things are all priorities. And just keep your eyes open and continue to provide us input as you see things roll out, because our young people and the families in our community and across the state are critical as we think about recovery. So just know we're in your court, and we're going to do everything we can do to make sure we're on our feet and we're whole.
I appreciate it. I do. And I want to just give a shout out to you, Senator Wilson. You don't get Board of the Year in 1 year. It's a culmination of years. And so you were on that school board and you were there when it started. And so I just want to give a big shout out right back out to you. But many of you I'm seeing your faces right now, whether it's the work that's happening right now with the pre-apprenticeship program that Representative Johnson has so passionately advocated for, whether I think about Greg Baruso, who was on our capital projects group to help pass the bond, or the work, Martin, frankly, that you've been doing and working in support of helping to have that conversation around digital access. And I could go on and on. And so I just want to thank all of you for your support. And thank you again, Mayor, for pulling me on here at the last minute. I did not, for some reason, didn't have the link.
And what I would say is, as you probably noted, we have incorporated your legislative agenda into ours. And so, Coach, if you see us, or if you see a need down in Olympia, for any of us on the screen now to, to activate, if there's anything going on at a particular committee or something going on, let us know, and we will. We've got Aaron, our lobbyist, on here, and we will jump to assist, because the schools are us and we are the schools. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. And then we also have Becca with our Chamber of Commerce, and I know that our council and Susan, I know that your council president needs to leave here in about 5 minutes. So before you leave, though, Council President Honda, I would like to hear from you. Let's hear from Becca, if that's okay, first, and then
Sure.
Then we'll turn it over to you, because I'd like to hear some closing comments by our council president. Becca, go ahead.
Well, good morning, and I will go very quickly because I know it's important that we're represented in public health. I'm glad that our council president is serving on that. Again, great overlap, I think, not even overlap, it's great synergy with us all working together as we look for enhancing broadband and high-speed internet connectivity. I can't tell you how delighted this morning I was to hear that our 2 reps will be serving on economic development and community development committees, because like everyone here, the Chamber of Commerce is laser focused on recovery and what that is going to mean, particularly as we look to creating jobs in the South Puget Sound area, and talent training and recruitment and retention that ties to our school district and creates wealth for our community. So, we support obviously the digital that the city has, and also the equity issue and the one-to-one for the school district, among the other things. But you'll be hearing more from us. Thank you very much for your support. And please know that Commerce is appreciative of the struggle that our legislators are going to have. We understand that some of the needs are going to need some funding, and we are going to just ask that taxation burden, if any, is spread across the community and is not given to the businesses to shoulder themselves. That being said, we're all on the same team, and it's all about taking the federal way to success. So thank you for a few minutes.
All right, thank you very much. Council President Honda.
Thank you. It's always hard to follow Becca because she's such a good speaker, but I want to thank everyone for being here. The legislative session gets going in January, and this isn't the last time we'll be talking to our legislative team. So that is really important. We need to be in constant contact with you guys. And, because of COVID, it might even be easier. We can just stay home and do it from our desks at home and contact you and even testify if the need comes up. I'd like to encourage the public also to be involved in what's going on in Olympia. It takes all of us to get the work done, and our team needs to hear all of our voices, not just on the council, but from our community also. So thank you, Mayor Farrell, for having this today. And I hate to just run and leave, but I need to go to skateboard because we're talking about our legislative priorities there too. And they're all transportation, Senator Wilson. So from Seattle all the way down to Pierce County. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. It dawns on me now. Thank you, Council President Honda. I appreciate it. And thank you for your help in organizing and helping us organize this meeting. Okay, so my understanding is before we started this meeting that we had what's that? Oh, yes, of course.
I'm sorry. I'd like to, I forgot to thank Bill Vidino for all the work he did. That was in my notes. I didn't even look at my notes. So thank you very much, Bill. He worked really hard to help us with this. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a big group project. So thank you. All right. And yeah, Bill did great. Okay, so Mark, before we started, I heard that Mark Thompson, one of our fire commissioners, was going to say something. Did I Stephanie, is Commissioner Thompson on the phone or on the line?
I don't have anybody signed up for that, Mayor. I can look at the participants and see if he's on the line. Thomas,
Yeah,
can
Mayor,
unmute him.
I don't see a Mark Thompson on the attendees list.
I thought I heard that. Okay, and we do have Cynthia Ricks Mekatan, a very involved member of our community who would like to make public comment. Cynthia.
Hello, City Council, Mayor, Council President Honda, and Senator Claire Wilson, Representative Johnson, and Representative-elect Taylor. Thank you all so much. I just want to stress a couple of things. First of all, you know, I work for CHI and we have a youth violence initiative program, and we've been working really, really hard with our youth serving organizations to make sure that they're providing services to youth and our wonderful scholars in the school district. Because our scholars are not able to get out and interact with each other, suicidal ideation is up, depression is up, child abuse is up, neglect is up, right? And so we're working really hard, especially partnering with public health, to make sure that our youth serving organizations reach out to those youth, support them while they're in school, address any issues. Food security is a big one. Housing insecurity is another one. We've been fortunate enough to increase with working with the school district communities and schools and our youth organizations to have at least 10 different nonprofit organizations provide additional food support, school supplies, to help out with, for example, providing transportation so that our youth can sit in cars and do their work using the hotspots or the internet access from the libraries and other places, and providing them bathrooms and PPE and different things that they need to be able to make it, because sometimes in their home environment, it's just not conducive to distance learning. And they need to have someone there with them. So our youth serving organizations are there. Why am I bringing this up? Because as you deliberate with your funding, please do not create funding streams that aren't available to our nonprofits and our other support systems and safety nets that really are out there helping those youth be able to maintain during this very troublesome time. Mental health services are needed, food support is needed, and we all need access to those funding so that we can help fill the gaps. I'm so proud of our community, how resilient we are during this time. I thank the school district, I thank the council, I thank our legislative representatives. You all are amazing. And I think together we can even make it through this, even more so than before. And also, I just want to let you know that we will be getting our vaccines here soon. CHI will be getting theirs at the end of this week, and next week we already have a plan to start with vaccinations. So I'm excited. Federal Way will be getting some vaccines here to help the most vulnerable. We do have a plan, and it is being done with an equity lens. So thank you all so much for allowing me to speak. You all have a wonderful day.
All right, thank you. Okay, we are at almost a quarter past. We are almost a quarter past the hour, and I think Thomas? Okay. Okay, I think there's one person who would like to say a few words, and then I think we're going to wrap it up. Thomas, go ahead and put Anthony through.
Good morning, everyone. This is Anthony Hempstead. I'm the legislative advocate for the South King Fire and Rescue. And very briefly, would just like to say thank you to the legislators for your great support last year for the fire district's initiatives. And also wanted to thank the City of Federal Way for the great partnership in this really difficult year with PPE and first responders. And there will definitely be COVID-related issues coming up in the session, and we're thanking you in advance for that support and continued partnership with the city. But that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anthony. Got it right into the wire. We're just about ready to wrap up. Great job. Senator Representative Johnson, Representative Taylor-elect, Representative-elect Taylor. It's not Taylor-elect. We're so excited for this upcoming session, and we're very grateful for your partnership and your friendship and your work. So great job, everybody. And please let us know if you've got any questions about, and I think, if to carry Councilmember Kochemar's point, if it really comes down to a few of these, we'll continue to work and continue to talk with you about refining this agenda. Each one of these are very important in their own way, and the expertise of our former state representative and now council member Kochmar is, I think what she understands acutely, and I know what you understand, is there's only so much time and resources available down there, and we want to be very selective. And so I think that was a point well taken and point heard. So we'll be in communication with you about each one of these points, and maybe we can get a little bit of everything. Well, you just never know. But yeah. Any closing thoughts, Senator or representatives?
I would just say that we're open, and our emails are the same as they have been. It is an opportunity for anyone to reach out, to connect on Zoom. I've been doing that with many, many people and constituents and electeds alike. So would love to talk to folks who have concerns or wonders, and make sure everyone knows that they do have an opportunity and a role to testify if they want to. And virtual world gives people a broadened opportunity to do that. So if people would like to do more and know more, please reach out, because we can share that information and would be happy to do so. And thanks for having us today.
Jesse?
I'll just quickly add, communities continue to stay vigilant with the health protocols. I know it's a difficult time for everyone, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel, although we're still in the tunnel. So if we can just keep wearing our masks, social distancing, doing what we need to do. And then I'll just also echo Senator Wilson's point of reaching out to us. I know we will have a beginning of the session town hall virtually, and then a mid-session one as well. So we'll have that coming out soon with details, but continue to reach out to us, call us, email us, whatever you need.
All right, thank you.
And I'll just cap off just real quick. My legislative email is available, so if folks would like to reach out to me, that is perfectly okay. And certainly looking forward to the partnership with the city and other stakeholders as it relates to going into the new possibilities post-COVID-19.
Very good. All right. Well, everybody, great job this morning, and look forward to a successful legislative session. And let's hope 2021 is a real, we round the corner and put 2020 behind us. So thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.